for Remnant TV. We're here at 60 Andrassy Street, which is a museum that they call the Museum of Terror. So if you look behind me, this building here is where the political prisoners, mostly Catholics and Jews, would have been taken from the period of 1944 until 1991. In the first part, it would have been under Nazi regime, that this building would have been where they would have taken prisoners, interrogated prisoners, tortured prisoners, incarcerated them. And then after the Nazis left, which was the Green Arrow Party, which is basically Hungarians who worked in cooperation with the Nazis until the war ended. After the Nazis were taken out, then the communists came in, and they used this same building at 60 Andrassy Street to do basically the same thing, to terrorize the citizens. They persecuted the church. Cardinal Mindszenty was arrested under the Green Arrow Party and brought here, and then he also was later arrested under the communists, and he was allowed to go to the embassy, the U.S. embassy, where he lived basically in hiding, sort of like a Julian Assange type thing, for 15 years.
250,000 people pack St. Peter's Square, Rome, in protest against the life sentence imposed by Hungary's communist government on Cardinal Mindszenty. From the balcony of St. Peter's, the Pope says that the Church should not remain silent. Excommunicating all Catholics concerned in the Cardinal's arrest and trial, the Pope delivers his most outspoken denunciation of the communists. Italy's Premier de Gasperi is among those who hear the Pope defend church intervention. We cannot abandon what belongs to God, says His Holiness, and calls on all Catholics to execrate the chain of persecutions by dictator states. Bestowing his blessing, the Pope leaves the world in no doubt as to the Church's role in world affairs.
Inside this building is an unbelievable demonstration or exhibition of where fascism leads, where socialism leads, and I think particularly interesting for an American audience when you have people like AOC and Bernie Sanders and all these politicians now who are trying to bring America to the very place where Hungary was. Remember, Hungary's a predominantly Catholic country, where Hungary was at the time. And so we have to look at what's happening here, what happened here in Hungary, to say, do we really want to repeat that? Because that's exactly what they want to do. They want to do it again. They waged war on the church, but the church was strong. The church is no longer strong. We will not have a Cardinal Mindszenty who was so powerful among the people that he was actually able to intimidate to some extent the socialist regimes on the right and the left. And that's why he was allowed to have some freedom of movement, even though he was tortured, he was drugged finally, they got false confessions out of him. Eventually he literally had to take up residence in the U.S. Embassy, but he had enough power where they couldn't just kill him because he was a true Catholic, a prince of the church, and they understood the power of the church. We don't have that power. The Catholic Church doesn't strengthen itself. If Francis doesn't wake up, or if we don't elect a pope coming in the next conclave who understands the importance of the church in standing against totalitarianism, we're all in a lot of trouble. And the situation is more global now. We have a global New World Order. It's going to be a lot worse for a lot of people. And this is why traditional Catholics, the traditional Catholic movement, is not just a religious movement, not just a spiritual movement, it's also a political movement that we are fighting for our lives once the sort of totalitarianism that dominated places like Budapest moves across the ocean into our own country. Without the Catholic Church, we're all in a lot of trouble. So let's take a look. So this obviously is a monument to the Iron Curtain, and all of us, people my age, grew up in the States very, very aware of this Iron Curtain that went around the communist bloc countries. And down here a little further, remember, we're right on a main street here in Budapest. So for example, they have, images of an arrested Cardinal Joseph Mindszenty. They declared war on the church, Joseph Mindszenty. Private property was nationalized. Travel was not free. Nobody knows who is entitled to get a passport and who is not. Does that sound familiar? It's exactly what we're going through right now in America and everywhere else. Their goal was to fully annihilate intellectual independence. Well, we see that on social media. Anybody who thinks the wrong thoughts is going to be annihilated. They're not going to be allowed to do that. And again, this is Joseph Mindszenty saying this. Dissidents were kept under surveillance and were persecuted, and their lives were being made impossible. Under surveillance. We're all under surveillance 24/7 now, even from satellites. Everything that you see here from 50 years ago is now happening in America and all across the world. This one's interesting. There were no free elections. So you think what's happening with Trump right now, the will of the people, they elected Donald Trump in. What's happened for 2 years? Ever since Trump got in, what are they doing? They want to change the electoral process. They want to change the system so elections are controllable again, so they don't leave it up to the will of the people, just as they did here. They finally came out of the closet. You think what they're doing with the Russian hoax, trying to come up with some reason why it's illegitimate for Donald Trump to have been elected. I don't care what you think of Donald Trump. I'm talking about the process. They're making shrinking the process down, taking the will of the people out of it, and making a totalitarian superstate even in America. That's what they're working for. There was no freedom of speech, of course. Freedom of religion was gone, and then they found themselves under an occupation, exactly like what's happening to us.